What's up, guys? Doomwake here. Welcome back to another video on the channel. I do appreciate, first and foremost, thank you again for everybody who commented on the previous video. This is kind of a continuation of yesterday's video because when I did it, we didn't have Sunday's results up yet. Next week, however, I am going to make this a weekly occurrence. Next week, what we'll do is I'll wait until Monday when we have all of the events, and then what I'll do is we'll probably go over the top 8 of each event. And maybe something outside of the top 8, maybe the top 16 or top 32 that kind of catches my eye. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of have an overall view of where the metagame is and what I think could potentially be really good next week, given how the metagame shifts are moving, right? That's kind of what we'll make this video series of. But as far as results, there were 2 events that happened on Sunday. There was a qualifier, I guess you can call it a PTQ, even though there's no more PT anymore, and a Sunday Modern Challenge. So we'll go over those 2 events, and then after that, we'll kind of get like a broader picture of where the metagame is and what I think would be potentially good moving forward, maybe next week. So first and foremost, we're going to start with the Sunday qualifier. Sunday qualifier was won by, drumroll please, we have the 4-color canister Yorion deck. This was kind of the breakout weekend for this deck. You're going to see there's a lot of copies of this deck littered across the top 8s of this event and the Sunday Challenge. Excuse me. And just, you know, a really, really solid deck with a lot of good value cards. Can, you know, sort of play the aggressive role, but not as much as I would like. But just a ton of good value, Ren and 6 Teferi, all the good cards that you would expect. We even got the one-time warp, which is how you go off with Witness and Ephemerate. So just a, you know, really, really good deck. Definitely put up a very good showing this week. Even got the signature Emrakul the Promised End in the sideboard. So that is definitely one of the dominant features of the weekend, if you will. Second place, Hammer Time, Dark Confidant. Big fan of Dark Confidant. Just, again, not much to say about Hammer Time that hasn't already been said. Just a very good deck. Consistent, even gets to play... It's just like, Hammer Time is good at playing every single end of the spectrum. It gets to play, you know, the really aggressive beatdown draws, because it does have goldfishes that can kill on turn 2, while also being a Luris Urza Saga deck to just grind out everybody. So Hammer Time, very, very good deck. Namer Squat's third place has been playing a ton of Blue-Eye Control. This is featuring Kahira with main deck Chalice. Big fan of, definitely a big fan of this deck. As you know, when we went over the top 5 decks in Modern a couple weeks ago, I put this as number 1. I still think it's quite a good deck. Maybe move down a little bit a list from number 1, but definitely a very good deck. And if you're a control mage, I would recommend this particular deck list for you. Coming in 4th place, we have Blue-Eye Control, this time with Yorion. I don't know, it's really close between Yorion and Kahira, which companion. I think I'd rather be on the Kahira side, because I think Yorion only favors you in the heads up. And even with Yorion, I still think you might be a little bit behind the 4-color piles. So I think you'd rather just kind of show... Or this is Jeskai, this is Bolt and Heat, never mind. I didn't even realize the Bolt and Heat's in the iterations. But as far as Blue-White Control, I think I'd rather be on Kahira, because you're more likely to draw the cards that matter, like Chalice. But this does sort of give you a little bit of edge in like the heads-up Blue-White on Blue-White matchup. So that's something to consider as well, because of Yorion. We got 5th place, Hammer Time, Smith over Bob. I still think I like Bob, but Hammer Time, again, very good deck. Not much to say about that. We have Blue-White Control, this time with Kahira again, main deck Chalice. Yeah, this is kind of where I would want to be on Blue-White Control, because I do think main deck Chalice is still pretty good right now. So that is 6th place, traditional Kahira Blue-White. We got some Hammer Time in 7th. Not a whole lot to talk about here except for main deck Thoughtseize. That's kind of the flex slot. It's like Thoughtseize or Smith or Bob. I think I prefer Dark Confidant, but I don't mind Thoughtseize. Definitely interesting against these 4-color decks because Bob's a little bit weaker against Ren and 6. And then 8th place, we got Jeskai Murktide, which is just basically Blue-Red Murktide splashing Prismatic Ending along with some sideboard cards. So that rounds out the top 8 here. Again, as far as overarching themes are concerned, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. That's for later. As far as overarching themes are concerned, you know, there was quite a bit of companions, which you'll notice that that's not just this tournament. The next tournament may or may not have a lot as well. But we got Yorion, Luris, Kahira, Yorion, Kahira, Luris, and then the one person who didn't have a companion. You know, we may have it may be about that time we may have entered the companion era again, I guess, if you will, because we kind of already did that before the nerf, and you know, companions have always been really good in Modern, but this was kind of like a statement weekend for companions. So now we're just gonna go over we're just gonna round out the top 16 of this deck of these decks. So Mill in 9th, Hammer in 10th. The Creativity Titan deck, which I think is kind of decent. I think this deck might actually be in a decent spot right now, the Creativity Titan deck, so that's definitely a deck I wanted to highlight. We'll just go over 12th place Hammer Time, 13th place. This person plays a lot of this blue-white Urza Thopter stuff deck. They've actually decided to incorporate Yorion, which I don't hate. I guess my one critique would be adding Yorion maybe makes it so your Thopter Sword combo is less consistent. But you do add some more value. You know, you get to Yorion Blink like Urza, Inspector, Monitor, Stoneforge, maybe Smith. So you get some good value out of Yorion in this deck. I'm just not sure that you want to dilute the combo by that much by adding in the Yorion, so that's something to consider as well. 14th place, Traditional Blue-Red Murktide. Not much to say there. 15th, Black-Green Yawgmoth, and then 16th place, we have Yorion Rhinos. This deck's taking over. Don't say I didn't warn ya. But yeah, Yorion Rhinos, I think this is my preferred version of Rhinos right now. But that's going to round out the top 16. Now, let's take a look at the Modern Challenge on Sunday. Okay, Modern Challenge on Sunday. First place, as you can see here, we have Living End. This was the Cascade deck that won the tournament. I still think I prefer to be on the Rhinos side of things in most matchups, but Living End, very powerful deck. The reason I like Rhinos more is just because it's it is a little bit less weak to more played hate cards. Like the Urza Saga decks all have Spellbomb, Relic, Lantern, that kind of stuff. So I think the Rhinos deck is a little bit harder to hate out because it has a much better plan B, if you will. So Living End, very powerful deck, but I would rather be, if I was playing a Cascade deck, I'd much rather be on the Rhino side of things. Second place, Hammer Time with Bob. Again, this is a pretty common thing. The higher placing Hammer Time decks, most of them have Dark Confidant main deck, which I am a big fan of. This one actually has Dark Confidant and Thoughtseize, which is interesting. Might be something worth considering, but at least I know I'm pretty certain that Dark Confidant is a good main deck. Third place, Traditional Jund Saga, 4 Ren and 6, which I like. This is kind of like the list that I was talking about. If you saw yesterday's video, I was a big fan of playing with 4 Ren and 6 because you're an Urza Saga deck. So big fan of that stuff if you're into that. Fourth place, we see some more 4-color Canister Yorion pile. Fifth place, we got Traditional Burn. Sixth place, also Traditional Burn. Note, one of these decks does not have Lurrus, one of them does. You can decide for yourself which one is correct. I know my answer. Let me know in the comments below. Seventh place, this is the 4-color Yorion pile, but they're actually playing Ragavan. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but, you know, I'm not sure. I think the nice thing about the nice thing about playing a deck like this is you make it so that your opponent never gets to trade profitably with any of your cards because you have, you know, every single thing either replaces itself, has an ETB ability, something like that, right? Every single card replaces itself, so your opponent never gets to trade effectively on cards. Ragavan does not necessarily do that. Now, maybe it's enough where you have enough other card advantage with the rest of your engine that it doesn't matter if your opponent can trade even on cards with the Ragavan. And it's just such a powerful play on turn 1 that maybe it's worth playing, but something worth considering there. And then in 8th place, we have another copy of the Canister Pal. This is the more traditional no Ragavan list. It does have the Emrakul. Okay, yeah, so this is just the traditional Canister deck. So again, as we go over the top 8 there, the Modern Challenge, we had Lurrus, Yorion, Lurrus, Yorion. So there were only 2 people that didn't have a companion, one of which was a burn deck that maybe forgot to play Lurrus. So maybe it should have been another 7 out of 8 companions. So if you think about that, we had 16 top 8 spots, and of those 16 top 8 spots, 13 of them featured a companion. So if you're looking to play in Modern, you either need to be playing a companion, that's step 1. If you're choosing not to be playing a companion, you have to have a very good reason not to. So the decks that I think that might be the best non-companion decks, I actually think that Tron is poised for a pretty big resurgence next week, given how dominant this 4-color canister deck was. Tron is traditionally decent-ish against the more, grindy 4-color piles. Even if these decks have 4 Spreading Seas main deck, they don't really have that much of a way to clock you, so you can just get to a point where you're just hitting all of your land drops between casting Stirrings and Scryings and all that stuff, get to 7 or 8 lands, play an Ugin -2, and if they don't, if they don't have an answer for that, which they probably don't, they're probably just going to lose on the spot, because most of these decks, as you can see, don't have counterspells main deck. They have no counterspells, no forces, none of that stuff. So I think Tron's poised for a resurgence. I actually think there are maybe another linear sort of linear combo deck that I think might actually be good, which did have a decent weekend last week, was Charbelcher. Now, it's interesting to me that Charbelcher did so good last week, and then this week the 4-color Yorion deck did so well, but Charbelcher was almost nowhere to be seen. Because I've seen a lot of people who play the 4-color Yorion deck that say Belcher is one of their worst matchups. So maybe it was just a thing of people thought, like with Sodek winning last week, people thought Belcher was going to be hated out, excuse me. So maybe people were shying away from Belcher, and that's why the 4-color deck did so well. But Belcher is another deck. I think Belcher and Tron are your linears that could be very good. And then just in a general sense, try to have cards in your deck that are either 2-for-1s or trade even or above on mana. This deck is, again, with all the free spells and expressive iteration and that kind of stuff, it's very good at double spelling. It's very good at just generating a bunch of value. So, maybe consider adding more cards that are 2-for-1s in your deck. Something like if you're playing Randomator, play Muldrifter, something like that. That's a good way to maybe approach some of these matchups. And then there's just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight from the top 16. 12th place, you'll see here we have a Jeskai Humans deck, which is interesting. I wonder what the benefits of playing just plain old Jeskai are than to playing the traditional, 4 or 5 color Humans decks. This is something I might have to give a try, during the week, because this deck looks super interesting. Thalia's, Reflectors, Ragavans, not a human, but honorary human because the card is so good. Imperial Recruiter, Champion, Adeline. Super interesting deck list that maybe we'll have to try out at some time this week. And then one more deck that I want to highlight. That's just going to be 17th place. I know it's my exact deck list, but I just wanted to highlight that Thalai. For those of you who don't know Thalai, that name... for people who play a lot of Magic Online, you'll know that name, but for those of you who don't, it is Javier Dominguez, previous former world champion. Just notably that Thalai is playing 4-color Rhinos. That's all I wanted to know. All right, so that is going to wrap up the video. Again, takeaways, lots of companions, be doing something either trying to match the companions on value or maybe just ignore them by doing something linear. That would be my take on the metagame. I'm probably still just going to play Yorion Rhinos because I think that deck is completely sick. But, if you want to attack from maybe a different angle, again, Tron, Belcher, something linear like that would probably be my recommendations. Now, again, we're going to do this again next week, but I'm going to try and make it a little bit more organized. We're going to wait till Monday so I can have both results. And again, I'll kind of think of maybe a way to structure it a little bit better. But I just wanted to give you guys Sunday's results so you can kind of have that for you. And then tomorrow, we're going to get back into some gameplay. I'll probably do a video tomorrow and I'll probably do a video on Thursday with gameplay. Maybe that Jeskai Humans deck, you'll have to wait and find out. But anyways, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you as always, and I will see you in the next one.